Welcome to a budget travel guide to Santa Catalina, Panama. This is a 10-day itinerary, and I'm going to cover everything that has to do with traveling to this beautiful destination. Santa Catalina, for those of you who do not know, is a very small surfside village on the southern tip of Panama, right in the middle of the country, and is famous for its surfing, as well as diving and its tranquil atmosphere. When people come to Panama, they usually are going to either Bocas del Toro or Santa Catalina, which is also the decision I had to make when I had my 10-day vacation. Now, between the two, what I've heard is that Bocas del Toro is more of a well-developed area. As well, there's a bigger party scene in Bocas del Toro, whereas Santa Catalina has more of a sleepy and tranquil seaside town kind of feel, which is perfect for me. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 10-day itinerary, including how to get to Santa Catalina, the food that you can eat while there, the accommodation that is available on the small town, as well as all the activity that you'll be able to enjoy while in Santa Catalina. In terms of budget, everybody defines budget differently. So I'm from Canada, and for my 10-day itinerary, I spent a total of 1,200 Canadian dollars, which is equivalent to about 1,000 US dollars, and that included everything from the flight, the food, the accommodation, and the activities that I was doing. If you found this video at all helpful, please consider subscribing. It really means a lot and helps my channel grow as I try to get that 1,000 mark for subscribers. And of course, I've broken down the video on the left side here into different chapters, so feel free to skip around the timestamps to find the category that you're looking for. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first chapter is devoted to flying into Panama City. I spent 2 days here to kind of get my bearings. With the flight, I actually kind of lucked out and paid only 250 Canadian dollars for round trip flight, which is like unheard of. Flew with Delta, was very uneventful. Arrived in Panama, and at the city airport, I just got a SIM card as well as a Metro card from these kiosks. There's really no signs indicating they sell Metro cards, but this is also where you can buy them. $5 Metro cards include $2 of kind of balance in there, and it's very cheap and efficient way to get around the city. Each bus costs only 25 cents to 75 cents, so it's really a really great way to get around. If you opt to buy the SIM card at the airport, you can also take an Uber, which is quite cheap as well. Going from the airport to downtown Panama, it costs probably about 15 to 20 US dollars. But the bus is way cheaper. They also have a really world-class metro system, I found out later on. Just tap on and off like any other metro system in the world. It's from the airport to downtown Panama. It takes about 30 minutes. I booked a hotel near downtown called Hostel Arecas. It has an indoor pool on top of a second-story building, and it's just a hostel. A very cool vibe. I found most hostels in Panama offers free breakfast, which is just basically pancake that you make yourself. The first day there, I went to Santa Costera, which is kind of the boardwalk area that you can walk along the waterfront. There's a Mercado de Mariscos, which is a seafood market. It's kind of a tourist trap. I wouldn't recommend eating here. It's kind of expensive, and they play loud music. If I could do it all over again, I would not eat food here. It was just kind of alright food, I guess. So the second day was all about exploring downtown Panama. First, we kind of walked around the boardwalk area again, and the boardwalk is quite large. It spans all the way from one side of the city to the other side, so there's no way you're going to be able to walk the whole length in one day. But what we did find is that there are rental scooters from this company called Bird scattered all over the city. So you can rent them for about $5 to $10 per trip, and then it goes up by the minute. You just download an app on your phone, and then you can zip them around the boardwalk, and you can cover much more ground. Unfortunately, we wanted to ride them to the Bridge of the Americas where the big container ships were passing by, but it didn't really pan out that way because it's geo-fenced, so you actually can't go that far out. So instead, what we did is we just took a taxi over to the Mirador de las Americas, This is a pavilion on the other side of the Bridge of the Americas where you can see the big container ships pass by. I think ideally you want to try to get there around like 2, as that's when the container ships are passing by. And there you can see one of them right there. Otherwise, just check online. There's like a schedule, so you don't kind of show up there when nothing's happening. Did want to mention that getting to this point of interest is kind of hard without a car. Initially, we wanted to walk across the bridge, but we're actually stopped by some police officers, so it seems like it's not walkable. You can also hitchhike, which is what we did on the way over or the way back. I don't remember which one it was. The whole construction is like you can't get from one side to the other side very easily. So if you're getting an Uber pickup, they're going to loop around the whole bridge to the other side before they can pick you up. Yeah, so I would not recommend walking this because you can't. They just kind of turned us back once we got to the midpoint of the bridge. I'm not sure if this is like always like that, because it seems there is a pedestrian walkway. So let me know what you find out if you do decide to walk the bridge. Seems kind of a nice. I should also mention something else that's worth checking out is Viejo, which is the old town of Panama City. And so we also did that on the same day that we did the Bridge of the Americas. In addition, one last thing that you can also do if you have additional time is to go to the Bio Museo. There is an entrance fee to get into this museum, but the architecture is very cool, and there's a lot of little information cards on the bottom that can tell you about the history of the Panama and the Panama Canal. So this is a great way to spend an afternoon. Check out the interesting architecture at the Bio Museo. The second chapter is devoted all to getting to Santa Catalina from Panama City. So in terms of getting there, the best way is with these intercity buses, and there's a giant bus stop at Albrook Bus Terminal. Albrook is actually a huge mall on the outskirts of Panama City. So you can either take a metro or take an Uber to get there. And once you're there, it's pretty straightforward. There will be these kiosks where you can buy the tickets, and it lists all the times that they're departing from. Going to Santa Catalina is going to have some transfers. So I'm going to lay out 2 options. One is the option I took, and then the other one is the more direct option. So this is a map showing my journey here. I actually broke it down into 2 distinct days because I couldn't find accommodation in Santa Catalina last minute. So what I did is I went from Panama City to Santiago, which is a big transit hub, and I stayed at a hostel there one day. And then the next day I took a bus to Sona, and then transferred at Sona, and then finally to Santa Catalina. This first option is probably also the option people will take if they're coming from another place in Panama, because as I said, Santiago is a big transit hub, and the next stop, Sona, is actually quite small compared to Santiago. When in Santiago, there's a big supermercado right beside the bus terminal, so it's a good idea to pick up groceries there. And a hostel I can highly recommend is called Hostel Travelers. So I spent one day there just kind of relaxing, enjoying the sun, and so it's a great hostel to stay at. The second option is a more direct route and will take you from Panama City, which a bus that goes directly to Sona, and at Sona you're going to transfer to another regional bus, or you can take a taxi if you find other travelers to split the cost to go directly to Santa Catalina. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for the bus stations here at Sona, as well as the taxi that we took in the end. If you are interested in checking out what it looks like, I'll link up my travel vlog from that day here. The prices for going from Santa Catalina directly to Sona cost about $10 US, and then from Sona to Santa Catalina with the bus, it costs $4.50 per person. The taxis, they are $45 one way, and if you find other travelers, of course you can divide that between everybody. We had 4 people in total, so it worked, and I haggled the driver down to $40, so it worked out to be $10 per person. My hostel in Santiago actually had a very good guide posted on their wall, so I'm just gonna put some of the poster information here. It lists out all the other locations you might be traveling from, and it's quite detailed, so just pause at the location you're coming from, and it should give you a rough guide of how you can get to Santa Catalina. In terms of accommodation in Santa Catalina, I recommend 2 options depending on how you're traveling. If you're traveling as a couple or with another friend, then I'd highly suggest booking a room with Hotel Nativo. This location that I booked actually was through Airbnb, and the price is way cheaper than if you actually book through the booking websites. I'm going to leave the contact info of the person who I was in contact with. It's $50 per night, and you get an amazing view right into the waterfront with a terrace as well as an infinity pool, and there's also a on-site restaurant that you can order food from. It is a little bit more expensive, but you pay for the convenience. They also offer kayak rentals for $15 per day. However, we found later on that it was much easier to launch a kayak from the beach, and the rental prices were also a little bit cheaper. I'll talk about that in a little bit further. Here's a view of the room itself. As you can see, it's quite small, but totally doable for 2 people. If you're dividing $50 per day between 2 people, that's $25 per person. In terms of the hostel accommodations, most hostels run about $20 per night for a bunk bed, kind of 6-person to 8-person dorm. So when you take that into consideration, the $25 for this room is not bad at all. If you want to actually stay at a hostel, there's lots of options to choose from. Santa Catalina, the downtown major core, has 2 or 3 hostels right next to it, but the beach itself is not an actual swimming beach per se, at least in Santa Catalina. If you wanted to do more surfing, you will go to Playa Estero, which is about a 20-minute walk away. So this is a view of downtown Santa Catalina, and the hostel I decided to go with is called Hostel Los Perlas. It's actually a restaurant on the bottom floor, and on the top floor they just newly added these beds with some fans. But in terms of staying here, it was $20 per night, and I kind of wouldn't recommend it at this price point right now. I only chose this because it was the only option available to me, because they didn't have mosquito nets at the time, and whenever the restaurant was cooking late at night, you can just smell it like upstairs. You get up here using this little staircase. If you're going to do a lot of surfing, then you want to stay by the Playa Estero side. There's some hostel options include Mama Ines, as well as Surfers Paradise. This is an aerial video showing Surfers Paradise, which is the hostel I would recommend if you're going to do a lot of surfing. As you can see, they got a really awesome sun platform on the top here, and it's very easy to rent surfboards from the owner's son. I'm going to put out his information here. You do have to carry it a little bit. It costs like 5 to 10 minutes to the beach, but it is much cheaper than renting on the beach itself. So surfing is a daytime activity that you can enjoy, and I think if you're a beginner, the best location for surfing is Playa Estero here. The wave breaks super consistently, and you can even walk out to the surf line, so it's very beginner friendly. In terms of renting boards, if you don't want to carry the board at all, you can rent it from Mama Ines or Surfers Oasis School right on the beach. And if you're not on Playa Estero, you can actually hitchhike. The island is very small and welcoming. I found hitchhiking to be very easy if you're not carrying a big board. However, if you're trying to save the most amount of money and don't mind carrying the board a little bit, you can rent from this house here, which is the son of the owner of Surfers Paradise. He rents out boards for soft foam boards for $10 per day, and then epoxy boards for $15. If you're renting multiple days, I'm sure he can give you a discount. He also offers lessons as well. Here's his information. Just keep in mind that if you're carrying this board to the playa, you're gonna have to go through this little river creek here, and you can see right now it's not very high, but when you're coming back in later in the evening, it gets as high as your waist and sometimes even a little bit higher. So if you are doing the renting from another place, make sure you bring some water bags or a way to carry your stuff over the water without it getting wet in the afternoon. One last thing I wanted to mention is that the beach is very safe. So if you're just going by yourself, you can just leave your stuff on the beaches, which is what I did. You just have to be careful when the high tide comes in, it doesn't get washed away. So the next daytime activity I recommend is kayaking / the beach at Santa Catalina Island. So the best place to actually go to the beach is nowhere on Santa Catalina. It's a little island that's just off of the playa called Santa Catalina Island. You can actually see it. It's very close. Kayaking takes about 30 minutes and like the water over there is crystal clear. Very nice shady area with all the trees, and nobody really comes here. Like, we were there the whole day. There's probably a total of 10 people on that whole island. So it's like you have your little own island, and renting a kayak from Hotel Nativo costs $15 per day. But like I said before, it's kind of hard launching it from the rocky area. You really need water shoes. So instead, what I recommend you to do is to go to the downtown center and rent it from Tiki Lodge. So Tiki Lodge is a hostel as well as a restaurant, but they also offer rentals for kayak as well as surfing. And this place has the cheapest prices anywhere in town. I think we rented a double kayak for the normal price was going to be $15. But the owner, he didn't have a truck to transport it for us to the beach, so he offers a little discount for $12 for 2 people, and so we just carried it ourselves. In terms of prepping for the day, there's nothing on the island, so make sure you have a nice breakfast. I recommend Caricacos right in the center of the town. They have a really good steak sandwich that you can actually bring for lunch to the island. As well as buying some fruits and vegetables from the local fruit market as well in the center of the town. Make sure you bring enough water for the whole day, because as I said, there's nothing on the island. Other than relaxing and taking a dive on the island, if you walk around and explore a bit, you're going to see a lot of hermit crabs as well as coconut trees, and if you explore the west side of the island, you will find an abandoned ship, which you can also kind of check out. This chapter is devoted to scuba diving. There's about 3 dive shops on the island. I went with Panama Dive Center because they seem the most well-run and legit, caring about your safety and whatnot. So I paid $200 for a 3-tank dive, and they go to Coiba National Park. So in the morning you show up, they do a little briefing. I went with all experienced divers. And after 2 dives, they come onto a little island off of Coiba. You can have your packed lunch here. I think I went with the chicken, which is apparently the best one according to the instructors. And then once your rest is over, you go back to do your 3rd dive. What's great about these dive sites is that you can make up your mind on the spot, because they carry out 3 tanks. So if you want, you can just pay for 2 tanks, and then depending on how you're feeling, you can do that additional 3rd dive. In terms of aquatic life, the most interesting thing I would say I saw down there were the reef sharks, which is quite common in these waters. Depending on the season, you can also book a session to go out further than Coiba, where they can do dives to try to see hammerhead sharks. Unfortunately, it wasn't in season and there wasn't enough interest, so I just did the Coiba because I was only there for 10 days. At the end of the session, they'll bring you back to the main island and then do a little briefing about what you saw. In terms of the marine life, I would definitely say if you've been to Mexico or Thailand, those are more interesting. Chapter 7 is for all the miscellaneous tips that I wasn't able to fit in any of the other categories. And if you're still around right now, I would really appreciate if you can hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. So in terms of the miscellaneous tips, one big tip I can offer is that if you like to do everything last minute, I will highly suggest you change up that for Santa Catalina, because I was looking at Hostel World and I was looking, oh, you know, there was still room available 2-3 days out, but by the time it got to the day before, all the rooms were fully booked, and so I actually had to change my plans and stay at Santiago for one day just because everything was fully booked out. So especially if you're looking at budget accommodations, definitely book 2 to 3 days in advance. Even better if you can book a week in advance, because they do fill up. The second tip that I can offer is that there's actually a lot of abandoned property on the island. And what happened is, I think some hurricane might have gone through, and these used to be hotels. So just kind of walk around and explore. One abandoned property that I found was just off the side road of Surfers Paradise, and you can just check that out. It's really cool. If you're really into ultra kind of budget, you can even like wild camp there, because I don't think there's anybody who's gonna mind. Third tip is, if you're looking for a place to relax and enjoy the pool, you don't actually have to book a hotel. You can just go to any hotel that has a restaurant attached and just buy some food. You can relax there the whole day. So this is Hotel Nativo, where I actually stayed, but if you didn't stay there, just pay for food. It's also a great place to catch the sunrise or sunset on their sun platform. Actually, in the morning, if you want to catch a sunrise, there's nobody even watching the gates, so you just walk in and just chill on the platform. So yeah, just check out some of the hotels nearby. I know Coco Villa actually do charge an entrance fee, but other hotels should not. And if you are planning to catch the sunset at Hotel Nativo, there's a gelateria called Mancaria right off the side entrance towards the hotel. Their cookie sandwiches are highly rated, so I think it's like $5 or $10 for one, but it's really worth it. So you can just skip that and then just walk over to Hotel Nativo to catch an amazing sunset. I'll just leave you here with some of the clips that I filmed with my drone, but yeah, it's beautiful over there. Finally, the last chapter is devoted to going back to Panama City. It's probably the city you need to go back to fly back to your country after your vacation is done. So in the morning, there will be a bus that comes into town that will take you directly to Sona. Usually this bus is full coming in with all the workers starting their day, and then leaving, it's actually not that full because it's mostly just tourists. I believe it leaves at 8:30. I could be wrong though. You can just double check with the Caraco's Cafe for the most up-to-date bus times. Once it drops you off at Sona behind the bus terminal, there will be a really nice kind of canteen. It's really cheap. And then I got back to the city and booked an Airbnb at this apartment complex for super cheap. I think it was $25 per night. It was an Airbnb individual room, and then it also had an infinity pool on the top floor. It was also very well connected. It's right next to a metro, so I really kind of lucked out. But I think Panama City is a big city, so if you search around, you should be able to find deals like this, no problem. While I was there, I was actually the only person there apart from a couple, so it was really nice. The final day before I left, I went to Metropolitan Park, which is the natural park in the middle of the city with lush greenery. You can get there by an Uber or you can walk, which I do not suggest because you're going to be walking on the side of the highway here. There's a coffee shop right at the entrance which does a really amazing pancake and breakfast combo there. They also have ping pong tables. You can play and chill and relax after your hike or before your hike. The hiking is quite easy. Maybe it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to the top of the mountain, and you're treated with a really nice view. I think the park entrance was maybe $5 or $10, but it's highly recommended. This concludes my 10-day itinerary/travel tips video on Panama City as well as Santa Catalina. If the plane tickets ever drop down again, I would love to go back to this place and explore further. But ending off the video, I just want to leave you with some drone shots that I took while I was there. as there's such a stark contrast between the urban jungles of Panama City and the natural jungles of Santa Catalina. So hopefully you enjoy these drone footages, and subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video.